rescued
Regardez.
by an emergency platform.
Ah oui, je peux danser en vide. Continue. Oula. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça?
Paused to catch their breath. It was strange to be so close to her. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm trying very hard not to think. Me too, he said. Up ahead, he could see the thin silver of Zenobia's personal ship. It looked fast. They would leave all this behind.
De la vie. Hein? Ouais.
Bernardo had learned so much about... What was it again?
Donnez-moi ça.
Within your aerobics trays. Am I right?
Je les allume pas. J'en sais rien. Voilà. Pas le choix. Et bien sûr, là j'ai l'épée en feu, il n'y a aucune porte en feu à ouvrir. Hein. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Aïe. Oh, t'es sérieux? Putain, moi j'essaie d'aller vite et tout, et au final je fais de la merde. Mais non! Il y avait des caisses à péter là!
As they reached her ship, Renato suddenly felt a sharp
Trophée!
pain in his stomach. He was surprised to see a crossbow bolt sticking out of it.
Mais c'est la fin de ce
"I lead
chapitre.
the Empire to a secret base," said Lapino. But no, you had to screw up my plan because you still got a thing for her. Renato stared at Zenobia. The kiss. Was it real? She said, with a look of indescribable sorrow. She gestured and said an arcane word, and Lapido went flying into the abyss, screaming, "I'm telling your father!" Then she knelt down to cradle his head, and her paws felt very soft and warm. Okay, that was weird. He could have sworn he just died. Instead, he was on the Farfarer, sailing away from Ubar. And it was still burning. He'd fled burning Ubar years ago, hadn't he? And now he was back there. Had all those years fighting the Empire been nothing but a vision into the future? A useful vision if it was true. He'd learned something. Lapino was a traitor. Renato had suspected there was something wrong with the Mad Rabbit. But now he knew there was malice behind his goofiness. He'd made bad choices. But now, when the real battle came, he wouldn't make those choices. He wouldn't make the same mistake twice. The book's pages began to flip backwards, towards the beginning. And he realized that his adventure was just beginning. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Emperor had brought the Sky Ripper pieces up out of ancient burial by his obscene rituals. Could this be where the Iblis stone was hidden? Someone better get it before he does, thought Renato. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens? Every child knew about the Sky Ripper. The Transcendent Emperor had buried its pieces. What could have brought them to light? This Emperor, Isengrim III, had once been kind, but he'd gone mad. And now he was conducting secret, obscene rituals to bring back the lost gods. Had he, somehow, summoned the long-lost components of the legendary weapon out of the deep places of the earth? It was more than Renato could fathom. But if he could find a legendary weapon, he would use it. As he set foot on the island, Renato couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lapino still waiting to be rescued? No. He was probably drinking champagne with the Ravens. Did Ravens drink champagne?
Champagne shower.
Renato felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper? Renato never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it? And this is why heroes are called dashing, Renato thought. See? Dashing? Get it?
Okay. Les gemmes, j'en ai trouvé aucune encore. Je vais améliorer mon effet de feu. Faut que je trouve une essence d'eau. Je préfère débloquer toutes les épées avant de les améliorer. Perso. Voilà.
Huh? A lever? That was new. Most people still use doorknobs.
Hein? Merde.
The people who had built this castle.
Il fait que de parler le narrateur là, c'est très chiant.
Monstrous weapon lay hidden within their walls.
Une porte ça?
The Sky Ripper could
Non.
destroy anything it touched, or so the legend said. As the Transcendent Emperor had fought the lost gods, thousands had died. But Renato had been through wars. The only merciful war was a short one. Smashing things was fun.
Ah. Ok. Qu'est-ce que j'améliore? Santé, on s'en fout pour l'instant, j'en ai pas vraiment besoin. L'endurance, pareil. Après, les petits ennemis sont autres. Dégâts, tir de rapin. Allez.
Come in handy in a pinch.
Ah, j'en ai deux. Allez. Ah non, il me manque un truc de glace pour ça. Oula. Soleil.
Come over here.
Hop. Viens là, viens là. Bah oui. Des pommes dans des... Pardon. Encore des ennemis, quelque part. Pourquoi je peux pas revenir en arrière là? Encore ces trucs mystiques. Chat.
These things really slice like ham.
Waouh! Et ils enlèvent vite de la vie en plus, c'est con. Oh putain. Et voilà. Un truc caché là? Merde. Viens là. Merde. Et non. Il y a ton pied là. Viens là. Viens, dans le vide. Finalement, je vais peut-être prendre la vie après.
A puzzle. Renato loved puzzles, except when he couldn't figure them out. On the other hand, if there was a puzzle, it was
Ah, je l'ai, cette épée.
away from something good.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a par là? D'accord. Il y a un trophée. Déjà. Explorateur. Mais ouais, mais... Ouh, il y a un coffre mystique rouge. Je crois que c'est un coffre encore plus rare que les bleus. Plus rare que lui, plus rare tout court, ouais. Un coffre épique, je crois.
Interrupted story time. Go on to leave, Raven. Now we'll never find out how it ended.
Hello. Attention. Petit trophée.
Oh, sweet. A gem.
Petit trophée.
All he needed now was a workbench, and he could slot it into his gauntlet.
J'ai récupéré ma première gemme. Ça se casse? Non. Ça, il y a de la vie dedans. Non. Bon. Oui, un coffre. Donne-moi un bleu. Oui. Je peux créer mon épée. Oula.
Open, says me.
Et voilà. First try. Pourquoi ils mettent un truc ici de ça là? Il y a un truc caché là quelque
He
part?
wished there were more pylons he could use the hook on. They really needed to construct additional pylons.
Il y a aucun truc. Pourquoi ils auraient mis un poteau là? Bref. Allez. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Bon, on va faire du chapitre, je suppose.
There it was.
L'armature de Skyriper.
Dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway. The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How is it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Skyripper had a heart. A core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, there was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him.
Bon, on va continuer dans la quête de ce Skyriper.
It was a no-brainer.
pour ce scénario.
By itself, only a series of coils and wheels. War demanded sacrifices, and he would make more before the end. He would have to choose the greatest good, no matter how much it cost him. Zenobia. Well, he would see her sooner or later, across a battlefield or a sword's point before all this was over. He was sure of that. The power was in the core. Obviously, he had to get the core.
Je dois trouver le noyau.
He looked up at the old trees around him. They were so big and so old. They'd been there before he was born.
Finissez le travail. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Ah, c'est le truc que j'ai récupéré? Ça sert à quoi?
What had got into him?
Rien.
He was no philosopher.
Du moins pour l'instant.
He was plenty important. He was a hero. And soon he'd prove it.
Un petit coffre. Mais là, je pourrais pas revenir en arrière, donc ça va attendre. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Sauter?
Renato had heard stories of a dungeon where chests were filled with potions and weapons. Fairy tales.
Fairy Tales, ouais. Bon, bah écoutez. Moi j'ai envie de voir ce qu'il y a. Ouais. J'espère qu'il y a une échelle derrière pour monter. La réponse est non. Ah, c'est comme ça dans le puits, d'accord.
Get all the ingredients for a pretty nifty sword.
Et ouais.
There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time.
Je suis pas rassuré. Je crois que je vais me faire attaquer.
Where did that go to? There were fewer and fewer trees. There were only these huge crystalline growths.
Rien.
Had those been here before? He no longer heard birds except for the feverish cawing of the ravens.
Où est-ce que ça nous amène ce téléporteur?
Smell the small animals of the forest, the mice and rabbits.
Un hôtel. J'ai pas de points.
And he was getting hungry too. This was an unhealthy place to be.
Voilà, combat rondement mené. J'ai vu qu'il y avait un trophée, c'était faire un combo de 60 coups. Je sais pas... Non, déjà fini, t'es sérieux là? Foutez de ma gueule? Et c'est reparti pour l'instant scénario.
He hadn't liked what he smelt and saw there. This felt like that. As quick as he could, He wrangled the icosahedron into the armature. The wheels began to spin, then glow. The sick feeling quickly spun away. Now he only felt sad. He had lost good friends for this war apparatus. Maybe Lapino wasn't such a good friend. Yeah, that made him feel better. He carried his prize back to the Farfarer. Now, he had to make his next move. There was a key Imperial outpost on the Nexus. If this really was some sort of super weapon, he could use it to wreak havoc on the enemy. And if it wasn't, well, better to know that before the final battle. But maybe he should show it to some scientists first. There was an observatory on the Nexus. Maybe he should go there before he fired it.
Bon. Demander de l'aide aux scientifiques ou pas le temps de morfondre. Attaquer l'avant-poste. Écoutez, on a fait tout ce qui était dans le rouge. Donc on va continuer. Ah, je sais pas. Allez, on continue avec les espèces de crapauds mystiques là.
If you've just assembled a weapon out of legend that can exile gods from the world, you'd want to have a scientist or two look at it. And even if they disagreed and he had time, he could ask Calaveras himself. Yes, the observatory would be his objective.
Le jeu est bien, mais il y aurait eu moins de chargement, moins d'histoire, moins de... plus de gameplay. Là, oui, ça aurait été cool. Mais là, tu dis mec, c'est la fin du chapitre. Voilà. Ça se voit que c'est un jeu indé, quoi. Prudent, renard.
Thousands of years after the transcendent emperor had
Je
dismantled
lis même
it,
pas ce qu'il
the
dit.
mad emperor Isengrim had performed terrible, bloodthirsty rituals to invoke the lost gods. Was that why these ancient artifacts were rising out of the ground?
Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? On peut rentrer dedans?
Then, that the Sky Ripper would reappear to be his destruction. What was really fun was hooking yourself onto a moving ship.
Tiens, dégage. Et là, il me faut un établi et je le trouve pas. Hein.
Bernard had a lot of crafting materials. Now all he needed was a crafting bench.
Hein? Ouais. Allez, je vais essayer de faire le combo. Merde, il m'a touché. Non mais j'appuie sur X pour parer aussi, je suis con.
Renata felt ready to take on new powers. A legendary weapon was exactly what the rebellion needed. They were outnumbered. The once kind emperor had become a tyrant. But his ravens stayed loyal, for he fed them his victims, was trying to do. To bring back the lost gods, the Black Harvest, the Black Sun.
The Black Sun?
He would stop that toad, no matter what the risk.
Je peux pas aller là? Je peux aller là par contre.
the Nexus Observatory of the Empire's most renowned scientists, working by themselves without interference. At least,
Ah. Épée de glace.
this sword from the frigid north was really useful for making popsicles.
Et là, il me faut de l'essence de vent. J'ai une petite gemme. Voilà. Et du coup, pour changer d'arme, ouais, c'est ça. Oula. Ah d'accord. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça?
People were just liable to explode if you upset them.
Méfiez-vous des corbeaux explosifs. Tiens, va voir ton pote. Ouh, je vais mourir. Ouh, ça sent le décès. Ah, je vous l'avais dit. Ah, faudrait que je réussisse ce combo, mais... Tiens, meurs avec ton pote.
I think this is
Oh.
yours, said Renato. He couldn't hear his enemy's answer.
Voilà.
Renato, smash!
Oula. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Énergie? Ah, point de mana. Et... Ah, je croyais cru que c'était un établi encore. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? Oh, ça sent la fin du chapitre. Ça sent la fin.
Renato was thrilled. The scientists seemed to think he'd put the
Eh
sky
oui.
together right. But one toad was worried.
Yeah, the Sky Ripper could tear a hole in existence itself. There are invisible strings that tie the universe together. If the Sky Ripper cut one, the hole would widen and widen until
C'est vraiment du
all
Star Fox, hein.
existence, fell into it.
Il y a un crapaud, il y a un renard, il y a un lapin. Il y a les corbeaux. Moi, ça me fait penser au personnage de Star Fox.
Yeah, said the worried toad.
He knows more than anyone else has forgotten about the Transcendent Emperor.
If anyone could tell him how to use this weapon safely, it would be Calaveras. It was he who had told Renato how to find it in the first place. But maybe he had to give up on using it as a weapon. Maybe he had to go to the secret rebel base and ask the generals there what he could do with a weapon that he dared not use.
Quel choix mystique allons-nous faire? Ah, j'aurais pas dû... Ouais, j'aurais dû prendre par rapport aux couleurs. Genre faire tous les rouges, tous les bleus. Bon. Écoutez. La suite au prochain épisode, j'ai envie de vous dire.